Coming up tonight, we have our first sea day of this long Atlantic journey. We take a look at the entertainment area of the ship and got to sit down with a couple of ice skaters. It's all coming up, so let's set sail. Welcome to day number 5 of the cruise view from onboard the Harmony of the Seas. Today was Thursday, October 27th, 2016, and it was the sea day, like I will be saying for the next several days, as this is the start of our long 9-day journey across the Atlantic Ocean. Today, we have one top story that I discovered, and that is we're back to a Royal IQ issue. The compasses, for the most part, are there and seem to be working, but apparently there is some issues with the data itself. Some of the entertainment offerings listed in the compass do not match up with the actual show times. For instance, the one that I found today was the showing of 1887. In the entertainment listing that's provided, it says that the show was at 9:45. When I signed up for it at home, it said that it was at 9:30, and in the compass on the Royal IQ app, it said that it was 10 o'clock. So the correct time, of course, was the 9:45 in the entertainment listing, but that did not match where everything else said it was. Checking with the staff, though, this seems to be a rather common occurrence, and for the most part they said to just ignore the Royal IQ and go with whatever the paperwork says, since that is considered to be the most accurate, since it's the official listing of all entertainment and not the data that somebody entered into the app to show. But that's our only top story for today. It was a rather uneventful sea day. No major issues or anything came up, which is always a good sign. And our location today was 34 degrees and 2 minutes north by 11 degrees and 20 minutes west. At noon, the closest land was Cabo de Busa in Africa, roughly 130 nautical miles away. According to the captain, tonight, just after midnight, we'll be at roughly 300 nautical miles away from Madeira. And for our weather, we are, as you can tell from that location, heading south rather than directly across the ocean. We'll be heading south for a little bit and then turning to head directly west to Florida. According to the captain, this is trying to get some warmer weather earlier in the sailing, as well as to help avoid some rougher seas that are in the northern part of the Atlantic at the moment. So for us, that of course means we're heading south, and that is warmer weather. Wouldn't exactly tell by today's forecast, as it was only a high of 74, slightly lower than the temperatures we've seen the past couple days, but outside it felt relatively warm. And the forecast called for scattered thunderstorms throughout the day, but for the most part I did not see any thunderstorms. I didn't personally see any showers. I heard there may have been a quick shower about 3 o'clock, but for the most part all I saw was continuous cloud cover throughout the day, and then some peaks of sun towards the end of the day, which is actually slightly better than the cloud cover we've had the past couple days while at sea. The one change that we did have today, though, is that it did get a bit more wind out there. It was roughly 30 to 40 knot relative wind across the top deck, compared to the almost calm 0 winds that we've had the past about day or two. And our sunrise this morning was at 8:22 a.m. with the sunset tonight at roughly 7:21 p.m. So with those slightly cooler temperatures in the past couple days and our first day at sea, what was there to do? Well, for me at least, I started my day once again with David Kirkpatrick. Today he had a 10 a.m. lecture on Happy Endings, How the Audience Rules Hollywood, all about the impact that the audience has and the voice and control the audience has over the end result of a film and which films are produced. And then following that, there wasn't a whole lot going on in the middle of the day beyond the usual trivia and other progressive items, as well as all the open activities available throughout the Harmony of the Seas. But this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we had the first of a nautical notes series looking ahead of the compass. It looks like there's at least 3 of them, I believe I counted, and they are hosted by Captain Gus to go over different areas of the ship. This is in addition to the Captain's Corner that will also be held later on in this sailing. But today's 2 p.m. Nautical Notes was on building the harmony of the seas, and it featured Captain Gus going over a lot of the construction process, how the Harmony was built, some of the technical details that went into constructing the ship and launching it so that it could be a fully functional sailing vessel that we see today. And of course, following his presentation, he then took some time to answer questions, turned a little bit more into a Captain's Corner. He tried to skew it back on track, but for the most part, it was a broad range of questions being answered.
I am intrigued by the little bar in the bathroom that you press and the tremendous amount of power that comes through it. And I would like to know, where is all this power coming from and where does it go?
Yeah. I can't really say that has very much to do with the construction of the Harmony, and I will give you a couple of reasons. Number one, number two.
And I'm sure he'll continue to do that question and answer at the end of each of his sessions, so we're certainly able to get a whole lot of extra information answered here than we would typically hear about during a normal sailing where we only have one Captain's Corner. And among the extra notes that I picked up today in that session, there was some extra information. The Harmony of the Seas during her sea trials accomplished a top speed of 25.1 knots, which is roughly 1.5 knots faster than either the Oasis or Allure capable of doing. So we've already known she is the fastest in the fleet, and it is by about 1.5 knots as well. And the more interesting one that I thought was that in addition to her top speed, she's also the quickest to stop, capable of coming to a complete stop from that 25.1 knot speed in only 5 ship lengths, which is roughly 1 mile. So these are massive ships. You always hear about if anything gets in the way, it's going to take a long time for them to turn or stop. Well, this ship is only going to be about 1 mile to come to a complete stop from that speed. And in most cases, they will never, ever have to do that. They will try to steer the ship around it because there will be a lot of forward momentum and other things that go along with coming to such a sudden stop. But it's good to know that if something were to happen and the ship could not steer around or avoid it, the ship could come to a stop in roughly 1 mile. Then, following the captain's event, we then had a little bit of free time. I took some time to head up to deck number 15 to the back of the ship to try out the Abyss. That was my first ride on the Abyss, and there was absolutely no line. For the most part, I haven't seen any line. I think the first day you might have had 1 or 2 people to wait behind, but almost every time I've been up there since then, it has been completely empty. It's basically walk on, and it's not that nobody's doing it. There are plenty of people doing it. Almost every time you go there, you will see somebody going for a ride, but there is no backlog. And that was a fun ride, much less scary than I thought it would be. Overall, it was a rather fast and surprisingly smooth ride. There really were no bumps or other things as I was expecting there to be. It was just a very fast, smooth ride right down the slide, and before you know it, you're already at the bottom. A lot of cool lighting and even sound effects throughout. And for the most part, the only thing I noticed that you had to take your glasses off. You could not wear them. They were concerned about them breaking, so you're required to take any glasses or anything off that you might have. I don't know if that contributed to it, but I did feel a little bit nauseous afterwards. So if you are prone to motion sickness like I am, the Abyss might cause you some problems. But overall, it was a fun ride, and I'm sure I'll do it at least once or twice more. And after that, then about 6 o'clock tonight, of course, was dinner time. Tonight, for our 5th menu, it was similar to Day 3 menu, one with a little less that I saw on it, but I ended up actually having a great meal of new things I've never even considered trying before, which is why you should always try new things on the menu, because you never know, if it looks like there's nothing there, you might find something you really like. And for me, that started with a starter of goat cheese and tomato tart. which featured a bit of ratatouille on it, something that I tried for the first time in Disneyland Paris and really enjoyed. And for my entree, I got the other vegetarian item on the menu, the baked polenta and feta cheese, which is another surprisingly delicious item. And then as for dessert, they had a dark chocolate brownie, and once again, like they've done with a whole lot of items this sailing, it seems like they're really getting a bit more creative. It was not what I expected, not the traditional slab of brownie on a plate that they normally serve, and I even got an ice cream with some caramel syrup to go along with it, thinking it would just be a slab of chocolate brownie on a plate and need something to help break it up. Instead, it was a really well-presented little dish with a small bowl that seemed like it had about 3 or 4 pieces of brownie in it, and then possibly it seemed like maybe they poured more brownie batter in it and some marshmallow on top and then baked that slightly. So it was almost like a chewy, warm pudding of chocolate with the brownie bites in it and the marshmallow on top and then some caramel over top of that. So it was a really intricate dessert for being something that was just called a chocolate brownie on the menu, and it was absolutely delicious. So if you like chocolate, try it. I don't personally like chocolate, and I even loved it. So even if you don't like chocolate, it's still a great item to have. And then at 7:30 tonight, there was a Crown and Anchor event for, I believe it was Emerald and up. There's a lot of Crown and Anchor people on board, so I'm sure it was, even though it listed almost every level, it was broken down to certain people on different days to help organize it. I had some other things to do, so I didn't personally attend it, but it was likely just like the other ones out there. With so many Crown and Anchor members on board and the entire area behind me used as the Diamond Lounge, I'm actually kind of surprised they still had a special Crown and Anchor event, but as they've been doing this whole sailing, trying to make it special and adding new things without taking anything away from anyone. So they of course had that. As I said, I did not attend because instead at 7:30 I did standby for the very first performance of the sailing of 1887, an ice spectacular behind me in Studio B, and that was absolutely incredible. I had another 9:45 tonight showing of it that I had tickets for, so that one I was able to sit right front center and at the end section, whereas the 7:30 showing I was up at the top looking down on it since I had to be standby, and both were absolutely incredible views. Really, if you've ever been in Studio B, you know this. If you haven't, there really aren't bad seats there. Every seat's a great seat, but there's a couple in particular that are absolutely incredible, and those would be the front row on the end where I got to sit today for that second performance. And as for 1887 as a whole, the show itself, it was less advanced than I expected. I guess, I don't know, with everything Nick Were said, I expected it to be a little bit more over the top and pushing boundaries than the show did. But it was an incredible show. One of the things that really surprised me about it was that when it was over, you were surprised it was already over because it just flew right by you, something that hasn't happened on the other shows, which is a sign of a good show, an entertaining show, that you don't realize just how long you've been there watching it. And that was the case with both showings of it. It was over before you knew it and you wanted it to keep on going. And with the new 1887 show, one of the big things they've done is the addition of projectors like 270 has, except instead of projecting on the back wall, they project directly on the ice to add some extra effects and atmosphere to it that you can't normally get from standard props and other items. And in typical Nick Were fashion, as we've seen this whole sailing, every little detail, no matter how small and likely hassleful it is to accomplish, there was extra effects put in there just to ensure it was 100% as good as it can get. And that was most obvious in what was the very opening scene, I guess second scene technically, where the projections turned the ice into a giant flowing river. And they took it to the next level. Instead of just being a flowing river, which was obvious from the top level where I saw it at 7:30, when I saw it at 9:45 from the bottom front row, I saw things that I had no idea even occurred in the first show. In addition to the river starting to flow, and from down there was just an absolute incredible effect. It felt like you were floating on it, and the ship had a little bit of rock today, which really added to the effect of it. But in the back of Studio B on the stage area, when the water started to flow and hit that area, they actually took one of the props and started to shake it and move it around as if it was flowing in the river that was forming. And with that water flow, just like in Greece, we saw with those cars coming out, instead of just taking props away, the entire stage area that was a giant French bridge actually slid back to the back of the stage area along with the river flow to make it look as if the bridge had washed away. And those are details that are not major, not over the top. They're incredibly subtle that I saw from sitting in the end, but from up top had absolutely no idea ever happened because they were so small and out of the way where you don't really notice them. But from that one area, it completely made the scene. And those are the kinds of details that you can see in all these different shows if you're in the right spot for certain parts of it, that really kind of put them over the top and show just the level of detail and quality that's being put into every single one of these shows coming out on the new ships. So that was basically my entire evening spent in 1887. One show, saw it twice, absolutely loved it both times. I will definitely be going back to see it at least once or twice more this sailing. It has 2 more performances on another night. And every one of the ones tonight was completely packed, every seat taken, all the standing room taken. So it seems to be an absolute hit that everybody loved, and just seeing it twice from 2 locations, I was amazed how different those feelings were, and it was still the exact same show. It was a very traditional one in terms of skating. You can do different tricks, but for the most part, you really can't push skating, and they didn't add airless, they didn't add any of those other kinds of things to push it over the top, so it was still a very traditional ice skating show, just with the addition of those projections. But the actual story itself, the different scenes, they were just so well done that it felt completely different than any other one and so much better than any of the other ice shows that I've seen up to this point. And that brings us to the end of the day. It is now 1:30 in the morning. At 3 a.m. tonight, we will have our first clock change. We'll drop them back. So 3 a.m. will become 2 a.m. We'll get a bonus hour of either time to enjoy the ship and the nightclub I see in here behind me, or an extra hour of sleep, which probably about 98% of the ship will be doing. So that takes us to the end of our day. And as I mentioned, the clubs, currently in front of the Royal Theatre with Studio B in the background, which is our venue tour. Studio B, of course, being where 1887 is home to. And tonight we will be taking a look at the entertainment place, which is almost all of the entertainment venues on board the Harmony of the Seas. Located directly below the Royal Promenade on Deck 4, Entertainment Place is the nightlife center of the ship. At the forward end is the Royal Theatre, the classic main theater on board. The venue spans down to Deck 3 and features a balcony on Deck 5. With multiple levels of seating, there is enough room to seat 1,394 guests per show. As a classic venue, it features 2 production shows per sailing, with the Broadway play Grease and the Royal Caribbean original production, Columbus the Musical. You got to try. You got to breathe and have some fun. Featuring the largest moving prop at sea. Tucked into a corner, the Oasis Class exclusive Jazz on 4 features a more intimate lounge with room for 92 people and often plays home to a jazz band each evening. The heart of the area has been completely redone. The Blaze nightclub from the previous ships has been removed, and in its place is a venue known as the Attic. This rethought space once again acts as the ship's nightclub each evening, but now also serves the purpose of acting as the ship's comedy club for the evening stand-up shows. As a result, the former comedy club has been replaced by a relocated Diamond Lounge to meet the growing needs of the line's loyal cruisers. Studio B makes its return, becoming the line's 11th ice rink at sea. Once again, featuring another Zamboni. This multi-purpose venue, featuring a seating capacity of 775 guests, acts as a TV studio on board the ship. It allows the Harmony to offer guests the chance to ice skate during the day, while at night, the ice takes on a new look thanks to the introduction of a projection system similar to the one in 270. This allows the ice shows to take on a whole new dimension not found on the other ships. When not being used as an ice rink, a floor can cover the surface, allowing for it to act as a large space for games like the Quest.
This quest is closed! The quest is
as well as parties like Harmony High and the Red Nightclub Experience. The most useful reason for the extra width of the Oasis class lies to either side of Studio B with the addition of access ways. The port side accessway acts as the home of the art gallery. In addition to a quick way to get to the Casino Royale. The ship's casino, the largest at sea, covers 18,000 square feet. All this space allows plenty of room for roughly 500 slot machines, as well as a large variety of gaming tables with everything from roulette, poker, blackjack, and more. For those that may not be big gamblers though, throughout the sailing, complimentary learn-to-play sessions are offered, and for the pros, there are often multiple high-stakes leagues held over several days. For something a bit more fun and casual, the cruise director as well as several other officers often take some time to host special gaming nights. Beyond the gambling, the Casino Royale has its own bar and is the only place that smoking is allowed within the ship. So there are, of course, the Royal Theatre, Studio B, several other smaller venues, but as I mentioned, 1887 was the star tonight, taking place in Studio B, the ice rink on board. And tonight's interview, to go along with that, I got to sit down with a pair of ice skaters.
4 little girls, they grow up in the most delightful way.
So today, I'm joined by a pair of ice skaters from Studio B. I've got both Klabera and Brandon. Thank you for joining me. Could you provide a little background on yourselves?
Yeah, so we're on board Harmony of the Seas. This is my 4th contract with Royal Caribbean. I have done 2 years of land shows prior to that, and I started skating when I was 12 years old. I'm 22 now, so I started a little bit late in the game. as soon as I graduated high school, I went to land shows for 2 years, and then my goal was to get on a ship and work with Willie B. Tech and Royal Caribbean, and this is my 4th contract. Here I am as ice captain, and just keep striving for the best since then. So.
Nice. For me, I have a little bit of a different road, but this is my 4th contract here with Royal Caribbean as well, and plan on doing a few more. I started out skating when I was 4, so a long time in the game. Yeah, a lot of competitive history. Went up through in St. Louis when I was a little kid, then moved out to Colorado and started training out there and did the whole competitive show. And yeah, and for me it was after trying for the Sochi Olympics and not making the cut, it was kind of a long run for another quadrennium to make another Olympics, and I tried in 2010 and 14 and both close, so I figured I'd try a different side of the sport and come to shows, and what a great way to do what I love and see the world. So here I am.
Yeah. So it's been 17 years since Royal Caribbean first brought ice skating to a ship. How familiar are people in the ice skating world with the fact that you can skate at sea, and was that ever a goal for your life?
In the professional skating world, everybody knows that it's a possibility to be on a ship and do skating shows, and actually even in the competitive world, you know that this is an option for you. It's the standard for skating on a ship is set really, really high. So people who are very competitive, this is usually their next step once they finish their competitive career. So it's been known, yes.
And then what are each of your individual roles within the cast in Studio B?
Oh yeah, we all have a little bit of a different role. Myself, just within the cast, we have one ice captain, which you're looking at, and she kind of manages us and the team. Myself, don't necessarily have all that responsibility, which is could be good, could not be, but yeah, I think, but we all play very similar roles here. We all do the ice shows and perform. We all have other duties outside of the performing that we do here, such as like all skates or public sessions, and we do a little more of the entertainment stuff around the ship that are sometimes behind the scenes. We kind of give life to the Aqua team and the production cast here on board and help each other's shows to make it go smooth.
Basically, we are a team. Our ice cast is, everyone has an important role just being there and being themselves, and without one person in our cast, we wouldn't be where we are, so.
Strength and unity.
That's it.
Yeah. So then everybody knows about sea legs when you're on a ship, but what is it like when you're skating on sea versus on land?
In what regards?
In regards like the ship's movement and like in adjusting your landings and different things like that for the fact that you're on a moving object and not a stationary arena.
I think you get used to it, personally.
Yes, of course. I think as humans we adapt to our environment, and with this, there is an X factor, I think, to being on a cruise ship, and it being, some days it's not necessarily rocky and it's not even really a thought in the head, but the days where it's rocking and rolling, there is, I guess, that X factor that you've never had. And personally myself, like in my competitive career, you go out and maybe you're rocky, your legs feel shaky in the moment when you're competing, but here it's, when you have that, it's a little different, I would say. It's more of a thought that you have in your head.
Yeah.
And it's almost harder to stay still on the ice when it's rocking than to move, because if you get it just right with the wave, it'll help you or it'll hurt you.
Let the rock be ever in
but
your
when
favor.
you're just standing still, it's a little more difficult.
Can be. I think here, though, the biggest thing on ships to adjust to is actually ice size.
Yeah.
I think going from an NHL size rink or an Olympic size rink to Studio B ice, which is, I believe, like 40 by 60 or 80, and that's the big adjustment when you have to change patterns into jumps or change your technique to something that you've spent years and years doing that are, that's just muscle memory at that point. So for me, that was probably the biggest adjustment. So a little rock can be exciting, a little adrenaline.
And then every person has their own talents and abilities they bring to the cast. What kind of flexibility do you have in the show to showcase what you're able to do?
I find that with B-Tech shows in general, everybody showcases their abilities as much as they can. They format the shows in a way that everyone has a solo and everyone is in the group numbers as well, so everyone has that opportunity to show their talents, and everyone's different, but you get your chance to show what you can do the best.
Yeah, I think our directors were smart. They're smart in their casting, and once we get here and they see what we're able to do in our rehearsals or install, and they definitely play to our personal strengths and try to put that into the performance side. So like for me, I think me being a solo skater, her being pairs, obviously they're going to be doing what I see from the show. She's kind of like the trick track and doing the headbangers and stuff. And me, I'm a decent jumper, so I'm a little jumping bean in the ice show.
Great jumper, not decent.
So they play to your strengths, whatever it is. So.
And then with being a pair skater, you've got a partner. How do you build that relationship and trust with them?
My situation is a little bit special. I was a single skater until my third contract on board ships, and I'm lucky enough to have a partner that had a whole competitive career in pair skating, so he kind of took me and I just followed his example. So I was very lucky in that sense that he taught me everything that I'm doing now. So it just works. So we have that mutual respect, and I understand that he knows more than I do in regards to skating together and tricks and communication. So I take that into consideration, and he's great, and it just works.
Yes, Padawan.
So then previously being a solo skater, now being part of a pair, is it easier or harder to skate in a pair versus solo?
I don't know if I can say if it's easier or harder. I like it more. I like skating with someone next to me. I'm always learning something new, and I feel like it is the best kind of challenge for me, is that there's always something to improve on. There's always a new lift or a new trick, or there's something, and I like it. I enjoy it more.
A triple throw.
It's coming. It's coming soon.
And then with an ice skating routine, it's obviously very dangerous. So you do have to do some practice, but how do you balance the risk versus reward of over practicing versus saving stuff for the show?
We're all very experienced skaters in general. I mean, almost everyone has been skating since they were 4, 5, 6 years old, and you know how much your body can take. You know how far to push your body. You know how to take care of your body if it's hurting. So that's just, now I think it's just an internal thing.
Yeah, we're, like Klabera said, we do have a lot of past experience and being in the show world, obviously, and here you're a busy skater, and I think it's always about, obviously when you're going to perform, we want to put out our best product and save it for the show, but for us, we do warm it up, and for me personally, I don't hold back with my warm-up versus performance. If I want to crank out a whole bunch of sets with jumping or certain things, if I feel shaky, then I do that, and I'm not necessarily too worried about the show. So, and if need be, a little energy drink,
A little
get
Red Bull.
it kicking.
Yeah.
And then with the ship's movement, that can have an impact on the show. How do you adjust things if things are rocking a little bit too much?
If there's a situation where the ship is really rocking, we obviously call the bridge, the stabilizers are out. We make a game time decision of, does everybody feel safe enough to do the show? That question is asked, and if we have someone that doesn't feel safe enough, then we will find our alternative option. Other than that, if everybody says that they can do the show, everybody has plan Bs for their elements in the show. So maybe instead of him doing a triple jump, he'll do a double jump, or instead of doing the headbanger, we would do a different thing at the end. So everyone should have their plan Bs in this scenario.
Yeah. But backing down is just quite difficult for me.
Not an option for Brandon.
So there's been times where I probably should have, but I go for it.
And then with a lot of these ice shows, there's a segment of it where guest artists come in. During the current sailing, there's someone who does a bubble routine on the ice. How does that affect the ice once you come back out?
You're the one one that's on it right after. You tell me.
This is true. Yeah, the bubble stuff she uses is real slick. It gets on my hands every time. So, you know. But at the same time, we're on sharp blades, and they kind of cut through the ice regardless of the ice being wet or dry or hard. So to me, it has no effect to my skating. But when I kind of take her stuff off or strike it off the ice, when I do get on my hands, there's like a lift I do next, and I'm like trying to rub it on my costume to get it off. Got someone's life in my hands, so that might be the only thing. But it's really a thing that you kind of just cut through with your blades, I think.
Yeah.
And then with 1887, the one day when I saw it, there was an emergency call over the PA system and all the audio was cut. But the show continued on, and when the audio came back up, you were right in sync. How did you pull that off?
This is just, we know that if we are put in the situation, if there obviously we can't control emergencies happening, you keep going as if nothing is wrong because the music is set on a timer and it will just pick up right where it left off. So everybody knows that, and our cast was, we actually hadn't talked about this beforehand, and everybody just knew on the ice that this is what they needed to do, and it worked out really well. So
yeah, it's perfect. Everyone was really professional.
Very professional.
We have a couple new hires to ships and Royal, but ones that have done shows for a while, and for them it was like, what's going on right now? And everyone just kept their game face on and kept going. So it was that was good, but it's always a little awkward, I think, when that happens.
Yeah.
So,
it was a little awkward,
especially
but
in the
happens.
number. So, but it does happen, and
Yeah.
that's part of ships, and you know, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, you know,
You just
roll
go with it.
Yeah. So, and then, what is the most difficult move that either you do during the shows?
For me, just because there's a difference in pairs. There's like pairs and there's adagio style skating, and we do one lift. It's a helicopter where I'm up over him this way, and it's just a different kind of way to get up than I would normally think to do, and it took a little bit of practice to get that one. So if I had to choose, that would be my most difficult
should
one.
we demo that?
No, let's not.
Okay. It is rocking today, isn't it?
Yeah.
For myself, I don't do many lifts called helicopters, to be honest. But I do, in my solo, I do a triple Lutz. So that's probably one of the harder jumps to perform on ship ice. In my past, I've done other things, so not in shows. Gotten triple axel off and a quad or two, but here, triple Lutz. And they had me doing a few pair lifts, so that's always different for me.
If he's in his understudy, he'll do a lift or two.
Trying to get up a girl in the air, so
Yeah.
I keep it interesting.
And then, what is your favorite part of the show to perform?
I would say finale. Just it's a really, the show is so intense because of the storyline. It's wonderful and everyone's so into it, and there's acting and it's awesome, and then finale comes and it's just very energetic and happy, and everyone is in it together, and it's just go go go, and it's really fun. I have a genuine smile on my face the whole time. So
Yeah, I think finale has I don't know, something special to it. Obviously, the show is amazing, and I don't know, finale, we have the crowd primed, and I don't know, there's an energy to Studio B, and so that is that's a highlight for me as well. And for me, I really enjoy the opening. It's kind of a joke that's in the opening that I'm in that role, and it's quite a show.
it's quite a show.
It's that's a lot of fun, and I'm getting into that character right now, and I'm enjoying that as well.
So then, as athletes, you're always trying to improve upon yourself. Is there something that either you're working on right now to try and learn or advance to in the future?
Yes, of course.
Always. You're always working to get better, get new lifts, get stronger jumps, get better performance. You can always improve something. So
Yeah, for me, I think in the show world, like Klabera was saying, it's even just character. Like I feel like I'm a different skater now that I'm on the professional side and performing versus when I was competing. I think for myself, when you're competing, it's very technically driven, especially with the new judging system and its numbers and everything like that. And now like we come here and we're performing and all that stuff aside, and like, yes, of course tricks are part of the spectacular stuff that's going on in the show, but you know, those tricks happen for like a bleep out of the whole show. And so being character and like just building that is huge. And for me, one of the tricks I'm working on and want to get is a backflip. I think that's essential for like show life, and I really want to get it, so find the gusto.
Right. Is there anything that you want to say to the viewers?
Take it away.
Well, come check out Harmony of the Seas. Come see us in 1887 and in iSkate, and it's been a really great experience, and we're excited to see what else the contract has to offer.
That's right, we'll be here. Come check us out on Harmony.
All right, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So in addition to the 1887 show that they performed tonight, they'll be back again later in this cruise to perform a show called iSkate. That one has no reservations. It's a little bit shorter than the one we saw tonight. I'm expecting less, if not no, special effects. As far as I understand it, the show's a little more of an exposition, give the ice skaters some time to show off what they're able to do, and a little more of a free-form performance than the one that we saw tonight. And that is similar to Hideaway Heist. So that wraps up another day of the Cruise View. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow, of course, will be another sea day. I'm Picone, and stay tuned for the links.